As we buckle in, I want you to think with me for a moment about why you're here. And I don't want to sound too official about it. This isn't a do you know how fast you were going kind of moment. But it's all about being intentional about this, right? And very few people were born into this particular way of thinking and living and doing God stuff and whatever. Most of us made some kind of a decision to show up, right? So what was that? Because whether you believe in some kind of concept of God and you grew up with a certain spiritual path and that's what we did because that's what grandma did or whatever, or you grew up in a situation where that just wasn't a priority and we just don't do God stuff because, you know, it's a great sleeping in day. Either way, that's sort of foundational. Most people go through their life and they don't question that thing. It just sort of is. It's foundational. But something happened for you. And you know what they say? You don't shake your foundation gets shook. I'm going to say that again. You don't shake your foundation gets shook. For most people in this room and most people watching online and all of that, something happened. Somebody said something, did something, was something, represented something that caused you to ask a question. And that question caused you to head in a different direction. And that direction led to a journey that led you here. That's huge. Think about that and give thanks for that because it speaks to something really important. I think it speaks to the reason why we are here. This is big stuff. We are here with an educational mandate. We are here to learn, and we are here to teach, and that's it. I got to tell you, if you're in a situation where you're stuck in some part of your life, where things just aren't moving, whether you want to escape from this dumb job that makes me feel bad about myself, or this relationship, boy, I'd like something to happen, or whatever it is, if you're feeling stuck, there's something easy you can do. It's like a magic spell. Learn something and teach something. Doesn't matter what. Be the kind of person that looks for an educational opportunity. Learn something and teach something, and I promise you, things will start to move. The relationship will change. Your luck will change. Something will happen. Learn something and teach something, and things will move, and all of a sudden, what you need to do next will become clear. I promise it works every time. Educational mandate. And that comes from the idea that there are no accidents in life. There just aren't. There's simply no room for them. There's no accidents. It's convenient to believe in coincidence and happenstance and all that, but there's simply no room for it. Think of it this way. Carl Sagan, astrophysicist and all-around good guy, says that we're all made of star stuff. The things in your body are present in the stars, and the things, specifically the things in your body, were there at the Big Bang. Think about that. Think about the fact that at the beginning of all things, the things that are you were there, and that they came all the way through time and space to be here in this room. That's crazy. Think about that. Oh, wow. Think about the fact that for you to be born involves winning a race. Think about the fact of all of the things that had to happen for you to be born. Remember how fast a swimmer you were? Think about all of that. Think about all of the things that had to happen for you to be born and for your parents to be born and for their grandparents and all the way back to the beginning of this star stuff Big Bang moment. You are a thermodynamic miracle. Wow, think about that. If you ever wonder, well, why am I here and what's the point? The point is you did it. You won the lottery of existence. Think of that. And whether you believe, like I do, that there is an intelligent, loving principle and that everything happens for a reason, that there's a beauty to that and a poetry to that, whether you believe that or whether you believe it is just all an accident, one way or the other, you are here. And one way or another, there's only one conclusion: don't blow it. Do something with this moment, whether it's a reason or whether you just won the lottery. Do something with it. It's that big. It's that important. You were there at the Big Bang and you're here now. And when I talk that way, it makes me think of one of the things that one of my favorite stories that ever I heard. It's a story of the Voyager probe. Do you know the story of Voyager 1 and 2, 1977? Some people have an alibi, weren't there. Think about this with me for a moment. To cast your mind back, whether you were alive at that point or whether you just can imagine. This is us as a people coming out of Vietnam, coming out of Watergate, coming out of the city of New York, just going bankrupt. No money. It's hard to imagine, but there was a time when people thought, wow, maybe the people in power don't know what they're doing. Maybe they don't have my best interests at heart. But listen, hard to imagine. But what I want you to know is even in those times, there is reason for hope. And this story is a story of crazy, ridiculous hope, because what they decided to do with the Voyager probes in the summer of 1977 is we're going to send these probes in opposite directions just out into the universe. And along the way, they'll take some pictures and send back some scientific data, and we're still getting that, but that's not really the mission. The mission is, and this is starting to sound familiar to some people, the mission is on these probes, which were designed to last 1 billion years. Think of that. How many washing machines have you had? Designed to last 1 billion years. And on each of these probes are pictures of what humans look like, a map to how to get to Earth. If you can recognize these constellations, you can get here. And the big deal is on each of these probes is a gold record, not because, they sold a lot of copies, but because it would last. And on this record, starting to sound familiar? They recorded greetings from all of the major languages of the planet Earth. They recorded the first words a mother said to her newborn child. They recorded songs from all kinds of cultures and all kinds of things. And think of what you would put on that. And think of the crazy, ridiculous hope and optimism of we're just going to send this thing out there. What are the odds of anybody ever finding that? But they did it. What would you send? What is the message that you would send? There was these two people that were in charge of the project, Carl Sagan, who I mentioned, and this lady named Anne Druyan. She was a creative director, and together they got to decide what would go on this gold record. But something else was happening along the same time they were collaborating. They were falling in love. There was a phone conversation about this 2,000-year-old Chinese song that was going to go on the album. And after the end of that 1 hour-long conversation, they were engaged to be married. And they stayed together for the rest of their lives. And they decided to do something else that would go on the record. They decided they would get somebody to sit with all kinds of probes on them, and they would record the electrical impulses of their brain and their nervous system while they sat and thought. And the idea, the crazy, ridiculous, hopeful, optimistic idea is that somebody somewhere out there would take those sounds and figure out how to turn those back into thought and know what was on our minds. You know who they hooked up to those probes? Anne Druyan. And so, think of this. When she was being recorded, she was falling in love. And so the first thing that somebody out there will ever know about us are those thoughts. Oh, I have goosebumps just thinking about that now. That is the message that we send. What message do you send? It makes me think of, when Jesus was doing his thing. That's how historians talk about it. The questions that he got were the same questions that anybody got at the beginning of a religious movement or an idea or a spiritual, whatever you want to call it. The questions that people asked were almost always the same kind of questions. The questions were, how do we know who's cool? And how do we know if we're doing it right? Right? Those are the questions. They asked Jesus that. They asked the Buddha that. They asked Muhammad that. They asked Moses that. They asked everybody those two questions. Who's in the cool kids club and who's wrong in one way or the other? And if you know anything about the history of human religiosity, there's a lot of answers to those questions. Those answers determine where you show up on Sunday morning for most people, right? But Jesus said, just love everybody. You know how crazy and optimistic and hopeful that is? It has nothing to do, for the first time, to my mind, for the first time in any particular expression of religiosity, it's not about, okay, it's everybody who lives here. And it's everybody who looks like this. And it's everybody who signed this thing or wears the hat or whatever it is. It's just love each other and, kind of shut up about the rest of it. I recognize that that's not always the banner that Christians carry now. I get it. But there at the beginning, that was the deal. And it just cuts through all of the cop-outs and all of the baloney and all of the pretense and all of the stuff that people put up. There's so much of that, isn't there? Oh, it's so easy to go, if you don't do it like I do it, you're wrong. If you don't vote like I do, you're wrong. If you're not the color that I am, you're wrong. And I need you to be wrong so that I can feel right. Oh, that's what it's all about. It's an ego thing, right? But that concept of it's only this, or it's only this, or it's only this, versus the idea of, it's that Voyager probe mentality of I'm just going to send love out there and who knows? That crazy, beautiful, optimistic courage. That's what it is. Instead of inventing reasons to hate each other. Because they are always invented, right? We're all made out of the same star stuff, right? We were all there. Remember at the beginning, at the Big Bang? You remember that time? We were all there. Everything else is invented. And we're good at it. Us humans can invent things all the time. Most of the time, they're positive things. You ever been around someone that's always looking at the clock for positive reinforcement? Oh, it's 11:11. Everything's okay. It's 12:34. 1, 2, 3, 4. Everything's okay. I'm not speaking against that. I actually adore that. It's beautiful. I happen to love someone who does that, and I do it now too. It's okay if you do it. Just know that you're doing it. Yeah, absolutely. Be the kind of person that looks for good signs, man. Be the kind of person. I decided for whatever crazy reason, some of you know this about me, when I see a Maserati, it's a kind of car, a very expensive Italian car. When I see one, I go, I don't even want one. I'm not interested in it. I'm not a car guy. But I see one, I go, everything's all right. And that worked until my neighbor bought a Maserati, and I don't even live in a Maserati neighborhood. But God's like, yeah, how's that? How do you like that? It's okay if you do it. Be the kind of person that looks for signs. Just know that you're doing it. Somebody somewhere might look at a group of stars and go, that looks like a boat. And I think that means that I should go on a journey. Okay, cool. Just know that you're doing it because you know what? Someone else might look at that same group of stars and go, that looks like Ernest Borgnine. And he was on the Poseidon adventure. I'm not going. It's okay if you do it. Just know that you're doing it. Someone in some other culture looks at the same group of stars and goes, that is a chair. And no, that's a rocket ship. And no, that's a shoe. No, that's Lady Gaga. It doesn't matter. It's okay if you do it. Just know that you're doing it. There's a commandment about golden calves, about don't create a graven image and then turn around and worship it. Don't make a golden calf. You made it, and now you're worshiping it. What's wrong with you? That kind of thing. The wording's different depending on your Bible translation. And so often, I think from close to the beginning, people have gone, see, that means that God is very jealous. He doesn't want you, worshiping around. But I refuse to believe in a God that has brand recognition issues. Come on, how small? Just because I feel egotistical and selfish doesn't mean I get to project that. I don't think it's about that at all. God is just God. I think what it's about is don't be fooled. You made that. Don't be silly. Thou shalt not be silly. Or at least thou shalt know that thou is being silly and just get on with it. One of my favorite quotes, I love it. It delights me every time I say it or think about it. It's from a guy named Barry Taylor. And it goes like this. God is the name of the blanket that we throw over the mystery to give it shape. I'm going to say it again because I love it so much. God is the name of the blanket that we throw over the mystery to give it shape. Isn't that good? Isn't that great? Isn't that gorgeous? You know who Barry Taylor is? He's the road manager for AC/DC. Look it up. But this can come from anywhere, guys. And I think about my life and how many times I needed there to be some kind of intermediary. I got to put my stuff over this to give it a shape that I can handle, right? I like to think I'm growing up. Because let me say to you right now, if my life is about anything, let it be about taking the blanket away. I want to see things as they are. I don't need my stuff getting in the way anymore. So many times people have come to me for relationship counseling. And it turns out that the problem is not with either person. The problem is that I don't see you. I see my impression of you. I see the blanket, so to speak. And I think you should act like I think you should act. And how come you're not a mind reader? And what's wrong with you for not being the amazing Kreskin in my relationship? That was a dated reference. But you know what I mean. And so my work as the counselor in that is to go, let's just see this person. And I want my life to be about that, don't you? I just want to see it. I don't need anything to get in the way of it. I want to love you for you, not for my idea about you or what you can do for me. I want to love the universe. I want to love God. I want to love this life for what it is, not what I can get out of it or what it means to me, what it is. Let us be the kind of people who can tear the veil away. And it takes courage. But you have moments of that when you see things for what they are and you know how it feels, and so you know how valuable and important and beautiful it is. This is every story, by the way. This is the hero's story, by the way. This is in the Bhagavad Gita when Arjuna says to Krishna, I want to see like you see. This is in the book of Job where God goes, if you want to understand this, you got to drink from the fire hose, so to speak. These are the hero moments. By the way, this is also when Luke Skywalker turns off the targeting computer in the first Star Wars movie. I don't need an intermediary. This is Paul Atreides transmuting the water of life. This is the story. This is your story. The story of, you know what, no more baloney. Usually I use a different word, but I'm in church. A different lunch meat. No more barriers. I just want to see it for what it is. I don't need anybody telling me anymore. And that's also scary. You mean I don't get to fall back on my prejudices and my ideas about what's right? You mean I don't get to do it the way that Grandma did it because she was cool and I love the cookies? You mean I got to just see it? Yeah. Well, I feel lost. Yeah. But you know what? Every hero has a wilderness phase, that moment where they're in the thick of it, and this is a good sign. Get out there and get in it. It's good to not know, because it means when you don't know, it means there's a lot more room for the thing to happen for you. This is a beautiful thing. But you know, they say, if you're lost in the wilderness, if you were Les Stroud or one of these Bear Grylls type of guys, if you're lost in the wilderness, you should look to the stars to navigate. Specifically, you should look for a pole star. Do you know what a pole star is? You know what it is? It's a star that doesn't move. The other stars could be all over the place depending on the time of year and all that kind of stuff. The North Star, for example, is always there. It's pointing north. That's how I know, right? Look for that. And you can find your way home. And I'm telling you that not to give you like some weird Boy Scout course. The badges will be handed out with the coffee. I'm telling you that because I want you to know that you don't need a whole bunch of books and ideas from me or anybody or prejudices or ego stuff or whatever. You need to find your pole star. In other words, the thing that doesn't change for you. It's so easy to define yourself by the stuff that goes away. I am these scars. I am defined by the opinions of people who don't care about me anymore. I am the job I lost or the thing that got taken away. It's so easy to define ourselves by the things that change and the things that go away. I'm how much money I have or my zip code, for Pete's sake. Throughout the story of your life, there have been things that did not change. Throughout the story of your life, maybe people, maybe ideas, maybe feelings that have always been there. Maybe it's not a long list. That's okay. You just need one. What can't be taken away right now? What can't go away no matter what? Where is that higher love for you? Let yourself be defined by what does not move, and you will start to find your way. You will start to move forward. You will start to realize that, you know what? These stars, just like Randy was saying, these stars shine on everybody. It doesn't matter if I like them or not. One of the questions that people ask me all the time is not, why do bad things happen to good people? They go, why do good things happen to bad people? How come that jerk has money? Or whatever. Well, first of all, obviously, you have no way of knowing what's going on in their heart. Don't judge that because you have no clue. But also, it's okay if you don't get it. The stars just shine on everybody. It doesn't matter if it's okay with you. Your job is to just shine on everybody. Let our lives be devoted to the idea that that message sent out on those ridiculous, hopeful, optimistic probes is not false advertising. Let us be dedicated to the idea that our identification, no matter how hard it is, and sometimes it is hard, is the courage that love has. Just shine. Just love. And I promise you, to the degree that you do, everything else will start to get easier. You will start to be braver. It will start to get clearer. And you will find your way to being free. Because after all, freedom is a choice. Thank you very much.